Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything that revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Serge.
And my name is James.
Yep, end of school year, mate. This is what it feels like to me. It's like, you know, when you get to the last couple of weeks of summer term at school and you put that little bit less effort into your homework and you just basically give a little bit less of a shit about it all. Even my transfers and everything I'm planning now, James, I feel like just end it now, please. Just end it now.
Yeah, I can probably tell you my transfers for the rest of the game weeks as well. It really does feel like season finished. Feels like that's it now. Yeah. Shit weekend for me in FPL. Team lost again. Your team lost. I feel like this could be a bit of a moody pod, actually.
Well, look, let's just get it done.
Okay, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, for the patrons, they'll get back to a normal Tottenham tomorrow at least.
Oh, yeah, they can't wait. Yeah, that's worth the subscription this month, isn't it? Tottenham and West Ham both fucking it up.
Well, I mean, to be honest, we're exceeding expectations and you're probably a little bit behind.
I don't even have expectations.
It's hard to beat yourself up when you've already done better than you thought you would. And I think both of our teams lost in very different circumstances over the weekend as well. But essentially we were outplayed by our opposition just in different ways, I would say. But yeah, so it's not really the greatest. Tell us, why was your FPL week so rubbish? Week so far. To be fair, there's 6 games.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And it is worth saying, yes, I mean, I could still have an amazing game week, couldn't I, if Mo Salah goes and gets a couple of goals at Manchester United on Thursday. So I took the risk of no Bruno and only went for Harry Maguire. I used 2 free transfers. Was going to go Maguire for Fofana. Wish I had gone Maguire for Fofana. Ended up going Maguire for Reguilon instead. And I bought Gator for Leno. So I was Gator clean sheet, fine. Maguire picked up an injury yesterday. I bought him as the most likely, in my opinion, Manchester United player to play 3 games. He's picked up an injury towards the end of the game yesterday. I suspect his game week is probably over. I think he's going for a scan today. We'll get some news on that. He definitely won't play against Leicester on Tuesday. I find it fairly unlikely that he'll play against Liverpool. And the way the United game kind of turned into a bit of a procession towards the end of that game yesterday, I'm kind of now with the opinion that Bruno might even play twice more.
Yeah.
And he's obviously already outscoring Salah at this rate. So it was a massive gamble to go against. And bar basically Maguire, Shaw and Henderson, every popular United asset returned. I mean, every attacker returned. Greenwood, Cavani, Rashford, Bruno, they've all returned. Wan-Bissaka assist as well. Games to come. You feel like now there's probably more points on the board for them. I still think they're going to mass rotate against Leicester, personally, and probably go full strength again against Liverpool on Thursday. So I need my 3 Leicester guys to really turn up on Tuesday night. And to be honest, it's not to say they didn't on Friday night, because the late Vardy assist and the late Iheanacho goal saved this from being a bit of a car crash. Got a goal from Heung-min Son and the Gator clean sheet, and obviously Salah assist as captain. He's my week at the moment. So I'm only on 46 points. I've dropped about 50k places to around about 250k. And I suspect that probably going to get worse before the end of the game week. But probably quite nicely set for the last 3 game weeks.
I've still got my free hit for this coming week, so which we can talk about in a little while. Just having a look now. There are 46 points between us now, James. My week has been better. My game week rank is 1.1 million. It's not too bad, and there's still a long way to go. But again, a tale of like ifs and buts and might be maybes. I felt like Leicester. We'll talk about it. I had no idea what was going on Friday night. So that late Iheanacho assist was absolute gold. And then
goal, you meant?
Iheanacho goal. Sorry, yeah. Vardy assist. You're right. Sorry, was absolute gold for me. Trent clean sheet and BPS was very nice. But then I saw your clean sheet from Gator, followed by Raheem Sterling scoring and my Mendy clean sheet wipeout. I was like, oh, here we go. But then Mendy making possibly the greatest penalty save
Since
all
Lucas
time.
Fabianski's against Lookman earlier in the season.
Yeah, quite possibly. So that helped me massively. Did Mendy's points there? I made 2 transfers at the start of the week. I sold Holding, and his clean sheet wipeout went down quite well. And I sold Son. I bought JWP. I mean, he's still got Crystal Palace at home, so JWP could still return, whereas Son's done. And instead of Maguire, I decided to buy Wan-Bissaka because I looked at it and I was like, why am I being cheap? I've got the money in the bank. There's 3 weeks to go. He's outscored Maguire so far this season. Why am I being cheap? So I said, I'm going to, and also what we discussed on the pod last week about the fact that they don't have any depth at right back, really. So Wan-Bissaka being young and fit, I think he'll probably good chance he could play 3 games.
It's one of the unlikely ones. I bet Brandon Williams might play at right back against Leicester.
It was a risk I was happy to take. So obviously that Wan-Bissaka 5-pointer plus he's fit versus Maguire's 1-pointer and he's not fit was a stroke of luck, but I'll take it.
My thoughts on Maguire was he'd obviously played every minute in the season so far. I obviously felt he was the most likely to play in the treble. And looking ahead, we've already kind of highlighted they played Wolves last game of the season, and now they're in Europa League final, likely to heavily rotate because that final's 3 days after Wolves and what would be a nothing game. But my thinking was, well, if Maguire gets through and has still played every minute going into the last game of the season, there's every chance he'll rock up at Wolves as well. Whereas with Wan-Bissaka, I was looking at it and going, I might only have 2 games there, plus Fulham in 37. Whereas with Maguire, I'm probably only going to miss 36. That was the way I was looking at it. It's obviously not worked out. These things are always easy to say in hindsight. Could have been worse, mate. I easily could have stuck the captaincy on Maguire. I'm not joking.
Wow.
So it was between Salah, Iheanacho and him for me. So easily could have been worse.
I don't have any concerns with Wan-Bissaka in the sense that I've got Dallas, and as we all do, sitting somewhere on the bench, racking up points.
No, it's important. You have to say third sub.
No, he's second sub for me.
No, yeah, for me as well, ironically.
So and Leeds have got a good last 3. So I'm fine with Dallas playing ahead of Wan-Bissaka should I need to bench Wan-Bissaka. It's not a concern for me right now. I'm quite happy with my squad overall. It's just obviously I'm free hitting this week, so just tear the whole thing up. How many fixtures have you got left? Do you know? Still to go.
It's not a case of how many have I got left. How many will get on the pitch? So I mean, in theory, I've got 9. If you want to, 10. And if you want to call it Salah's captaincy, obviously doubles. In theory, 11. But I think you can remove 2 for Maguire. I've still got obviously Gator Concert to go again. Probably got Fofana. Rudiger, I would say. It's 50-50 to play against Arsenal. Jota probably won't play at Manchester United. I'm not sure that both Iheanacho and Vardy will play tomorrow night. So what on paper looks like still 11 could very easily be sort of 6. And that's going to put me in trouble when there's other people who still got possibly 6 just from Manchester United assets. So it's likely to get worse before it gets better for me, I should imagine. I would really need Salah to do well on Thursday and the Leicester players to do well tomorrow night.
I'm looking at 14 at the moment. Mendy, Trent and Jota, like you mentioned, and there's Wan-Bissaka, Shaw and Fernandes, the triple Leicester and JWP. If I was to get 10 fixtures now out of that potential 14, and I say 14 because Fernandes is captain, actually that's 15. If I was to get 10, I would take it right now. If you said to me 10 or 11 out of your 15, Matt, you're going to get more than 60 minutes, I would take it.
Yeah. he's not going to end well for me. But as I said, I feel like I'm set quite well for the remaining game weeks. I basically know what I'm going to be doing for the weekend. Vardy probably to Calvert-Lewin, which we'll talk about, but there are alternative forwards. There's some good forwards showing up for the final few game weeks. And then
even Antonio, I would still say.
Yeah, Antonio, Bamford, Wilson. There's a few different options actually. And then for a -4, if Maguire's out, it's probably Maguire to Trent to give me 11 for the weekend. And then I see me in 37 going Iheanacho to another forward. And I think if I was thinking Wilson for the run-in, I miss Wilson against Man City, then buy him for 37. And then with what I'm set, I can see me make the goalkeeper change in game with 38. I'm not even joking. Because Gators at Liverpool and Forster's at West Ham. And just going, well, I'll get the best goalkeeper for game week 38 could be Meslier. go double Leeds against West Brom. I can see that being kind of quite straightforward in my mind in terms of the moves I got left, because I'm going to have selection headaches anyway. Even if, let's say I replace Vardy and Iheanacho with Calvert-Lewin and then Wilson, I've still got Kane. Then in midfield, I've got Salah, Jota, Lingard, Son, Rafinha. I'm going to have to leave one of them out in 37 and 38. And that's probably going to be gambling in terms of on Liverpool rotation or leaving Lingard out as it would stand. So, I mean, where would I want to go and fire that up particularly? Once I've got to that stage and made the straightforward forward changes, that midfield five, now Rafinha's back, can stay for me. And I'm really pleased I've got him for the run-in, ready to go.
Let's talk about some of these games and if anything came out from them, to see what we can learn and glean and take into our FPL decisions for the next few weeks. Leicester 2, Newcastle 4 was not what we expected. I'm going to throw some of these beach teams like Crystal Palace as well. I mean, Crystal Palace were playing Sheffield United the next day, so that the opposition might have a part to play in how they did. But honestly, I thought Newcastle were done. They were going to just put their feet up and coast off into 2021-22.
Well, as I said to you prior to the Arsenal game, I thought they might still keep going because they've been quite free-flowing and open. They've had some good results against some bigger names over the last few weeks or so. Didn't turn up against Arsenal. And you think with Fulham's failure to capitalise, then they probably would then be on the beach. They were brilliant, Newcastle. Played with intensity, great counter-attacking play. The split forwards of St. Maximin and Wilson are really doing damage to teams. And it's interesting when you look a little bit further back, since Graham Jones was appointed coach, actually their record from the 20 games played is 1-5, drawn 5, lost 5, which is very much mid-table form, right?
Yeah,
It's absolutely fine. Yeah. When you break it down more, and you realise Wilson and St. Maximin have obviously missed a lot of games. Actually, in Wilson's case, Wilson's participated in 8 games for Newcastle since Graham Jones came in as first-team coach. They've won 5, drawn 1 and lost 2. There's 16 points from 8. It's fucking Champions League form, mate.
He's on 134 points now, Callum Wilson. He every chance he'll hit 150. 150 is a good return for a £6.5 million player. It's a very good return.
Yeah, consistent as Callum Wilson. I think the problem with him is why people are a little bit put off by him. I think if you look at his goal, I think he's got 15 goals and it's around about 22 shots on target or something. It's absolutely clinical between the posts. A lot of those returns have admittedly come from penalties and that as well. But he's a very, very good finisher. Very good forward. Definitely under consideration for me. And I think he will be for a lot of other people. It's difficult when you want to make a transfer for the last 2 game weeks. I think it's difficult to look beyond fixtures. And Newcastle are going to be playing 2 teams who are presumably Fulham will be down by then as well. Sheffield United at home, Fulham away. I think for the last 2, yeah. And I wouldn't hate if anybody went, well, I only want to make one forward change between now and the end of the season. I'm going to go Wilson this week. I wouldn't hate that. Because if Man City put a team out again on Friday like they did on Saturday, which in fairness I suspect they won't, then Wilson could easily return in that game as well.
Yeah, so, I'm opposite, mate. I'm not advocating Wilson this week against City purely because City could have won the title on Saturday. They cocked it up. They could have got the title on Sunday with United losing, but obviously that didn't happen. And it's just like, you know what, let's put this to bed on Friday, please. So I think City will actually win comfortably against Newcastle. And I don't think Newcastle, I can't see him scoring. I mean, I'm going to double up City defence, possibly my free hit. So I'm opposite, but the 2 games after that, I'm all over it. I just don't know how I can move from Iheanacho on the opposite team on Friday night to Wilson. Like, it doesn't seem like a justifiable transfer from Iheanacho, who's also in good form and has scored more goals more recently than Wilson has.
Yeah, get that. But then Iheanacho is going to be playing Chelsea while Wilson's going to be playing Sheffield United.
Yeah, no, fixtures-wise, you're right.
So, I mean, to be honest, I get the holding Iheanacho if anyone wants to. And I'm not saying I wouldn't, because I'd expect him to score against Tottenham in game week 38. But I think you're looking for what's the best case scenario for Iheanacho at Chelsea? He scores again. What's the best case scenario for Callum Wilson against Sheffield United? It's match ball. And that's the difference. That's why I think when it comes around, I may end up making that move. But as said already, there's so many other alternatives. I don't think Wilson would be the one to buy this week. I think you're more likely to go, because of the City fixture, More likely Bamford, Antonio, Calvert-Lewin. There's a few others you can possibly consider as well. Would be more likely buys this week. For Leicester, it's Exodus time, I think. But Iheanacho would be the only one to hold. Because you go, okay, right, well, I'll have him for the last 2 fixtures if that's what you want. But the others you've got, it's Exodus time, isn't it? With no fixture this week, Chelsea away in 37. I think they're the ones that are going to get mass sold this week. There would be no case to hold, say in my case, there's no case to hold Jamie Vardy for those last 2 fixtures. Not that he can't, but if I can get rid of him, come down, save 3 million, then that allows me to bang in Trent for the last 3 games or something. That's what I'm going to do, isn't it? There's no real case to be keeping hold of Vardy's. I think Castagne's, Pereira's, Fofana's, whatever you've got.
Madison's sitting there for 3 weeks now, and he's got me nothing. Yeah, he's going to go mental against United, isn't he? and make it more difficult to sell.
But I don't think it would make it more difficult to sell. I think you still be selling anyway.
Yeah, Madison's the one that's top of my list to move on for Game Week 37.
Quite agree. Interesting comments from Brendan Rodgers post-game about Johnny Evans. I don't know how well that would have gone down, saying that Siyinchu and Fofana are good individuals, but Johnny Evans is the brains. I don't quite know what Siyinchu and Fofana would have made of that. I think Rodgers missed the trick because I think when Evans was ruled out pre-game and he decided Albrighton was coming in the team, I think he should just instantly gone to a back 4. They had the players and the personnel. Just shove James Maddison out on the left, get Iheanacho to kind of drop into holes, basically like a 4-2-2-2. And they didn't do it. Castagno at centre-back doesn't look comfortable to me. And Siyinchu had a bad day, obviously got caught out for the first goal. But there were underperformers across the team. Wilfred and Diddy didn't play well in central midfield, in my opinion. That's really unusual for him. And Newcastle strategically just got the game right, sitting off, pressing at the right time, countering with pace. I mean, every time they went forward, it looked like they were going to score. It looked like they were going to rip Leicester apart. St. Maximin should have scored before Newcastle got the first goal. He's another interesting one. I mean, if you're looking to come off Maddison in 37, he's 5.1 million St. Maximin. If he's fit, you want to pump for the last 2 game weeks. I can think of a lot worse than that to just the final 2 games. Leicester fans will probably feel that they're going to blow it. I imagine after the game, they'll be like, not again. Because if you just go back to that moment where Vestergaard gets sent off and you think, well, they're definitely winning that, you'd fancy him at home to Newcastle. They should have 5 more points on the board, really. Yeah. And now they're looking over their shoulder. I know West Ham have missed the opportunity to close that gap, so it's still the same distance. But now they can see Liverpool creeping up.
Liverpool could go up to 60 points.
They'll know. If Liverpool win at Old Trafford on Thursday, Leicester will know they're in big trouble.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you very much so. I think Chelsea are now have enough to get it over the line.
Yeah. Chelsea
Liverpool are the problem.
Chelsea should now finish third, really.
Let's talk about these Saturday games. Your boys kicked off first. I'll let you give us a rundown. But I just thought Leeds did a Leeds. High intensity, in your faces. Even when you equalised, they were the ones that were looking to push on. I thought Leeds were good actually on the weekend.
Leeds were excellent, absolutely brilliant. And I've obviously, the way my timeline is, I see a lot more Tottenham bashing and other things. But I think it's really important to say that Leeds were very good. Everything that you like about Leeds was here. The intensity, the pace to the game, the wet pitch really helped. We've been so critical of the pitch at Ellen Road, but the fact that it was wet and fast, I think really helped. They should have won by more, arguably. Hugo Lloris was probably our best player. There was some really good performers for Leeds that might not have stood out if you didn't watch the games. Jack Harrison, I thought, was great.
Oh, he was good.
Really good. Robin Koch covered for the absence of Calvin Phillips really, really well. Just had good performers throughout the team. They were far better than Tottenham, played with far more intensity. They've got, in my opinion, the best final 3 fixtures on paper. Burnley, Southampton, West Brom. I mean, what's that as it stands now? 16th, 17th and 19th, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult to argue with that. And that's why a lot of people will make that striker choice to go for Bamford. But I think I only had 1 in 9 prior to Saturday. But my feeling always is on him. If he's on the pitch, if Leeds create chances, he'll be at the front of it, getting many of them chances. So for him, it's all about positioning, a little bit like the goal he scored, being in the right place at the right time. I totally get why anyone would want to buy him this week. Dallas, for those with defensive problems.
I'm going to play him every week now.
Yeah, same way, yeah, 100%.
I've had enough. Like, to be fair, over the course of a season, I've played him more than I've benched him, and I've done well out of Stuart Dallas. He's in since game week 1, but I can't do it to myself anymore. He's playing between now and the end of the season.
I'd be absolutely. I think for a lot of people, listen, for those who benched him this week, it's completely understandable when you know that there's probably a strong possibility that Leeds wouldn't keep a clean sheet, which is how it turned out. So you needed him to score for him to be outscoring double game weekers. And it's easy to look at it now and go, oh yeah, I wish I played him. But it was fairly sensible for most people to leave him out in the circumstance. But yeah, there's no chance of leaving him out in the final 3 games. I think for those who had a defensive problem and don't have him at the moment, they'll go back to him. It's just glaringly obvious. Was he on 8 goals now? It's comfortably the top scoring defender in FPL. Rafinha's back, which is big. This is why I'd held on, hoping that he'd be back for these final 4 games. Even only as a substitute here, he's obviously assisted the final goal. Great differential for the running. I think Harrison's a really good alternative as well. So you've got Bamford as well, and Meslier. Meslier will, I think, for those who, if I had bought Gator last week, I'd be buying Meslier this week. That was the decision basically that I made. So I think those who've got a goalkeeper issue, again, you look at them 3 fixtures and Leeds are going to appeal. I would not fear going double Leeds defensive for this run in Meslier and Dallas. All this about they tire and all that is fucking nonsense, mate. Honestly.
Yeah, I one of my fears with Leeds when I sold Bamford earlier on wildcard and stuff was, will they suffer from burnout towards the end of the season? It has been talked about before. I didn't see it. I thought that was a reminder on the weekend that they can still play with that intensity. But your season for Spurs now, I mean, a lot of people held on to Son and Kane from the double the week before. Some moved on to Reguilon or what have you. But I think now Kane I'm going to keep just because if it is the final 3 games of him in a Spurs shirt that we see, he's going to want to go out on a bang. And I can see him scoring. And they're decent fixtures as well, Wolves and Villa. Maybe the last day of the season is a bit difficult, but I'm not moving Kane on. But there's no one else at Spurs, your Bales, your Sons, whoever. I'm none of them.
It's interesting because I think people will still look at Tottenham this week who have got, say, there's obviously going to be a lot of people out there who've got, say, 5 players who are blanking or something, are going to need to invest. And I think in the immediate, you do then look at the fixtures and Tottenham do still come to the front of that. You're probably looking Leeds, Liverpool, Tottenham, if you were looking specifically for the next 2, maybe West Ham as well.
City?
So, what?
Oh, they blanked the week. No, City, I was going to say. I think they don't blank. They've got Newcastle, Brighton. That's decent.
Listen, you can go in on people like Morris. Of course you can. But I think the fear in that would be how much are you getting out of the last 3 games? I think that actually, in an odd way, Bale would probably appeal more with the 2 home games that's to come against Wolves and Villa. It's people who, the majority of people who've got Fernandes have got a decision to make this week, haven't they? In terms of, are you leaving him on the bench for a week, knowing you've probably only got him in 37? Good chance he doesn't play in 38, or do you sell? I think under that circumstance, unless you definitely want to captain him in 37, you probably sell, don't you? You go and get the potential of the 3 games somewhere else. So Bale, Son will appeal to people. I think a lot of people who got Fernandes will naturally be drawn to go back to Son this week. I think a lot of people have had that planned anyway. Son to Fernandes this week, return the transfer next week. And you can still go Spurs for the attacking guys for the last 2. Wouldn't go near them defensively, even with Wolves up next, personally. Like if you're thinking go back to Reguilon or Orion, forget that, in my opinion. We got Welby. We have a major intensity problem, and it shows up. When Leeds are like this, it shows up. Tottenham have a major fitness issue. I think they're one of the weakest teams in terms of fitness in the league, which is a product because of the previous manager. And it's telling, and you're not going to get that implemented in the final 3 or 4 games in terms of fitness when you're playing twice a week. Said that, despite the fact we got absolutely well beat, there were actually things I liked in this performance from Tottenham in terms of the way we tried to play. We scored a brilliant goal. We had another goal disallowed, which was a great move as well. So I liked that we were trying to do things the right way. The problem was, the major issue we had was the delivery of ball, and I'm talking about just from midfield areas into Kane, etc., was so poor. all through the game. So poor. Every single one of them players in that squad could go, mate, in terms of getting... Even Reguilon, since the international break, has lost his mind as a defender. He's gone to fucking pot. If he wants to go back to Madrid, he can go back to Madrid. Tottenham's priority this summer isn't buying players. He's selling players. The majority of that squad needs outing.
But the problem is, if you sell them all, who have you got to replace them?
You start again and you start targeting. I could reel you off a list of younger players from teams that are in the bottom half of this league who would be of interest that you'd want to go and have a look at. You know, people go and rip half the squad out of Brighton. People like Dwight McNeil at Burnley, Eze at Palace. There's players at Fulham, Joshua Anderson, etc. Go and rip some of these clubs apart. I know wouldn't like it. Danny Ings from Southampton. I know he's not particularly young anymore, but it's good players. Mateus Pereira at West Brom. It's good players who you could go and get in the bottom half of the Premier League that would infinitely improve this team. He's so bad. I think what Mason would have learned about playing Bale, because a lot of people say, Bale didn't track back on the second goal and stuff like that. Listen, this is intentional, tactical. Go back and look at the goal and go and watch Son on the left-hand side of the pitch, doing exactly the same thing, staying really high. That was part of the strategy of the game. And it was adventurous, and in hindsight, it was probably ill-advised. But I think Tottenham really believed they could do Leeds over on the counter-attack. And I accept that as a tactical strategy employer. I think what Mason will have learned, if Bale becomes a Tottenham player again for next season, if they extend the loan, if Mason's in charge, what it probably would have learned is if you're going to play Bale against a side like that, you've got to play 4-3-3 rather than 4-2-3-1. And you've got to have, from the three central midfield players, your two wide central midfielders have got to be able to go out and fill the gaps out in wide areas so you don't get done in the overloads 2v1 like what happened really simplistically for Leeds' second goal. Ironically, the person who's best suited for that role for Tottenham is Moussa Sissoko. But I can understand why Mason wouldn't want to play with three central midfielders because we haven't got one good central midfielder. So why would you want to put three on the pitch? No. The Celso, not good enough. And Dombele is not going to be able to get up to fitness levels, in my opinion. Højbjerg is so fucking overrated. Sissoko, not good enough. Winks, best has gone. It's not suitable. All five of them can go. Tottenham need to reset. It's going to take a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm. Crystal Palace managed to get a good, comfortable 2-0 away win at Sheffield United. I mean, Sheffield United have really just become, I feel like the word irrelevant is really almost rude, but they can't do anything in this league at the moment anymore. So it's good for them to just go and reset in the Championship and come back stronger. And Palace just did what they had to do, right? It was basically a performance they should have put in, a result they should have got. Eze was the one that even Mig said on CNTC last week, nah, it's Zaha or nothing really with Palace. And Eze pops up.
Well, firstly, just to cover Sheffield United off in case I forget, one strategic idea for the final 3 game weeks might be to take a -4 for a defender and a forward, whoever's playing Sheffield United in the final 3 games. Because for them to not even be getting a shot on target against Palace is, yeah, the fuck, man. Mm. So you could go Dean and Calvert-Lewin this week. You could go Wilson and A.N. Other, perhaps Dummett in 37. And you could go Charlie Taylor or Lowton and Chris Wood in 38. And I bet you that you'll get the returns off those hits if you take that strategy. It's not the worst strategy you could have, honestly. On Palace, it would be easy to be hindsight person and say, yeah, it could have bought Eze rather than Zaha. But Eze played in a completely different tactical setup to what he normally does. So Palace changed system, played a 4-3-3. Zaha played in a wider area, which we wouldn't have expected. Andros Townsend played on the right. And Eze played to the right of 3 central midfielders. Jeffrey Schlupp played to the left of Luka Milivojevic. And they emptied the midfield, leaving Milivojevic in a really deep position, like he originally really used to play when he first joined Palace under Sam Allardyce. And Eze and Schlupp were just allowed to go and join in from midfield positions, which meant Eze could drive from central areas. And I actually think longer term, that might even be his best position, is as a central midfield player. He never strikes me as someone who's going to go and get 15 to 20 goals in a league season. And playing in a deeper role, he'll see more of the ball, but it'll be less pressure to get the returns. I actually think in the really, really long term, with proper coaching and some testing, he could even play in a double pivot too, central midfield. He's got enough quality on the ball. You know what's amazing about him when he runs with it? He never sprints. He's basically 3/4 pace all the time. And it's why he maintains such control. Like when Zaha sprints, he really sprints. It's 100 mile an hour, isn't it? Eze, it's like 75% pace all the way through. And yet he glides past people. People can't get
still
near
quick.
him. Absolutely super talent. Daniel Levy, there's another one for your shortlist. Go and have a knock and ask Palace some questions. Decent from Palace. Benteke should have got more than the one he did get. FPL reviews algorithm suggested he should be in 3 hit teams. There's another one to look at in hindsight and go, oh yeah, with Southampton still to come as well. Maybe he should have been. I totally understand people not buying Benteke. If you were going to buy Palace, it would have been a week gone, I think.
Yeah, they're run with Villa, Arsenal, Liverpool still.
Would you consider any of them on a 3 hit?
No, because I've got City, Liverpool, Spurs, Everton. Like I'm going to have a very, very all-in 3 hit this week, because those guys have just all got 2 good fixtures. Like, yeah, it's Villa, isn't it, next week for Palace?
Yeah.
If I was really struggling for budget and I needed to find a cheap defender, Joel Ward might end up making the team. And also, I feel like with my 3 hit and the way it's going to go, I'm going to have enough money to have a fairly decent bench. And I think I want to have a fairly decent bench because it's going to involve some City attackers and you never know what's going to happen with them. And so maybe one of them might make it onto the bench, even an Eze or what have you. But
Tyreek Mitchell stayed in the team, didn't he? We thought the City game might have just been a one-off, but he obviously kept his place in the team.
He's gone in the summer, right? So
I saw a lot of 3 hit teams this week with like Gator, Ward, and Mitchell all on the bench because they were cheap enough to cover and stuff. Obviously, if you went for, I think quite a few went for Ward within the Twitter community, you're probably playing him against Villa this week because of the blank, and then you leave him on the bench. There's no need even just move him on, just leave him 3rd sub for the remainder of the season. But I think if you were buying, yeah, you would have been buying them last week, wouldn't you? I think.
Yeah. Manchester City 1, Chelsea 2.
What a bizarre game. Tactically and selection-wise, fascinating. Guardiola obviously did not particularly care about this game or clinching the title on Saturday.
No.
I think we expected rotated team. We did not quite expect City to drop the bomb like that. And not only did they drop the bomb, they played a tactical setup that I'm not sure they've even used before. It was basically 3-3-3-1, but with players taking on multiple roles. So Nathan Ake was basically the left-hand side centre-back. And every time I watch him, he's harsh, but I just look at him and think, you are not Manchester City level. He played left-sided centre-back, but then in deep possession phases, basically played left-back, and Mendy went on to left midfield. Cancelo played right wing-back and never came in inverted, despite the fact that Rodri played in central midfield by himself, with basically Ferran Torres and Raheem Sterling dropping in at various stages. Gabriel Jesus played right wing at certain points, joined Aguero in the front 2 at certain other points. There was some weird tactical stuff going on. And in the second half, once Chelsea sussed it out, they just cut through City at certain points. If they moved Rodri from the central area, they were getting acres to run at them. And it actually was no major shock in the end, although the goal was slightly fortuitous. It was no major shock in the end. Actually, they nicked it because they had 3 goals disallowed previously in the game as well. I think a draw probably would have been a fair result overall. And City should have had a penalty with the Zuma on Raheem Sterling in my opinion. I think 9 times out of 10, you get that decision. Even from VAR, even if the referee doesn't give it, majority of the time, you'd get that. No disaster for City. They'll obviously still win the league. It's not a particular issue. It's probably an issue for Newcastle because they'll possibly pick a slightly stronger team now on Friday just to make sure if United do hold up to their end of the bargain between now and then. Chelsea made changes as well. I'd be interested, Chelsea listeners, how much would you sell Billy Gilmore for? I'm interested. Not that Chelsea would ever sell to Tottenham.
They're just... Billy Gilmore, I think, is a jewel in the crown for them. They know that he's going to...
Absolutely is.
I could see Kante leaving and then...
No, not now, mate. No.
You don't think so?
It's influential to everything that they're doing. I think Tuchel's unlocked something that we haven't seen for a couple of years.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's more... It's not so much because he's unhappy or anything like that, but the likes of Real Madrid have been sniffing around Kante for
Real Madrid
for a while.
don't have a pot to piss in. You know this.
They're still they're still buying and players and spending money.
They're off their head. What European competition is that going to be?
No.
The three-team Tri-Nation series with Juventus and Barcelona.
Being, though, Chelsea might not mind letting him go with Gilmour. Maybe not this season, but maybe next season with Gilmour in the background. With under Tuchel, apart from that blip the other week, we've seen incredible consistency from Chelsea. Consistency gets you titles. I think they're shaping up next season to be well up there. I mean, if they provide this consistency, they are not going to be exciting or crazily fun, but they'll be in a machine next year. I really feel like Chelsea are potentially the ones that are putting their hand up to be in a title race next year.
Yeah, and I think most people would agree with that opinion as well, because you've got players there who are going to benefit from the second season as well.
Massively.
Werner, who... Fuck me, if he'd have had more awareness of being on and offside, could have had a hatful of chances in this game. Havertz will get better. Obviously, didn't play at the weekend, but has looked good recently. I thought he was very good against Madrid last midweek. That was the best I'd seen of him. Ziyech, all these guys are going to benefit from a second season. You've got the likes of Gilmour coming through. Reece James and Chilwell are going to improve. Mason Mount is an absolute diamond and heart of everything they're going to be doing over the next few years, I think. And they're going to buy Declan Rice, as you well know. Sergio, that probably won't be this summer. That'll be the midfield three.
Unlikely.
That'll be the midfield three in 12 months, mate. Rice, Gilmour and Mount.
I think the only thing that could stand in the way of Rice going to Chelsea would end up being if Manchester United or someone decided they wanted to go big this summer and we decided we wanted to take the money this summer rather than waiting another year. If we wait another year, then I do think, Chelsea would be the prime spot.
Very good from Chelsea. I think that those chasing were looking at this fixture and thinking if they get beat, then with Arsenal and Leicester to come, it could unravel for them a bit. But they've done the business. You'd expect them to go and win again on Wednesday, wouldn't you? No matter what team they put on the pitch against Arsenal. You'd even fancy them to go and beat Leicester twice over the next week as well. And I think really now in the FA Cup final and in the league. So I think from here, Chelsea should finish third. They've been absolutely outstanding for the majority of Tuchel's reign. They're finding goals easy to come by now as well. They look more threatening. Pulisic is getting to fitness.
Mount, everyone's now finally accepting that he is.
From an FPL perspective, though, you're probably in hold what you've got. You've already got Azpilicueta. Most have got the investment defensively rather than offensively. I think because Leicester's in 37, Villa 38, it's not the best two fixtures, is it? You'd fancy him to win, but I think there's better forward attacking FPL punts to take in the final few weeks. So you're probably leaving it now till next season. Some of their pricing will be very interesting again next season.
Liverpool 2, Southampton 0.
I think it was interesting that Reece Williams played. I could understand the Liverpool fan perspective that he gives them heart attacks. It will be interesting. Kabak's injury is unconfirmed. It'll be interesting if Reece Williams plays again at Old Trafford on Thursday, because he had a bit of a nightmare when he played there in the FA Cup earlier this season. Or does Klopp decide that he can't deal with it, put Fabinho back in there and give himself two problems to fix one again? I don't know. I don't know if Reece Williams is up to having people like Rashford and Greenwood coming at him on Thursday, to be honest with you. So that's going to be a really big call for Klopp. I don't think Milner's close enough to play. You'd have to play Thiago in a really deep lying role. I think that'd be the only way around it for them at the moment. Could Virgil van Dijk make a surprise return? He's been running for a couple of months, isn't he? And he himself is desperate to play in the Euros. And he's got to play before the end of the season if he wants to go to the Euros. Sure, you would think.
Yeah. I mean, maybe.
I wonder if the team, could it be that the team would just drop on Thursday and Van Dijk might be in it? I've got a sneaky that might happen. I don't know. I could be way off the marks there.
Their last three are tasty. West Brom, Burnley, Palace.
I think the best three for the running, those final three games, would still be, you'd go Salah, Trent, and then your preference between Phillips for budget purposes, Robertson or Jota. So a lot of people Saturday night getting frustrated with Jota and his inability to finish chances. But I'd be looking at it again, like I looked at the Newcastle game and thinking, fuck me, he could have got a double point return here. And that his value is absolutely fine. And as I said, I'm going to have a selection headache at the end. So if Jota, for example, if he did start at United and then did play against West Brom, I'll probably bench him versus Burnley in 37 because I'd be thinking, oh, it's his turn. So I'll make a game-by-game decision on Diogo Jota, but with those final 3 fixtures, I wouldn't be stressing to get rid, to be honest. And quite conceivably, you could captain Salah in all 3 of them games, couldn't you?
Yeah.
A lot of people will do that, especially with Liverpool needing to win games to finish 4th. I mean, a lot of people will captain Salah in all 3. What I would say is, I think if Salah plays at United on Thursday, and there's no reason to think he won't, I'd be surprised if he started West Brom and Burnley. And on that basis, I think I'm more likely to captain Kane actually against Wolves at the weekend than Salah versus West Brom. And they're improving as well. West Brom, as we'll speak about in a little bit. But yeah, treble Liverpool for the run-in is going to be on the agenda for a lot of people. And to be honest, the choices on that will probably come down to budget and where you've got issues in your squad. It's not beyond possibility that if a Salah or Jota got injured, that I could be thumping -8s and -12s to work in different Liverpools this weekend. But I think I'm likely to add Trent to Salah, Jota, and then that'll be my 3 for the running.
Trent is just, when Trent's been in the kind of form he has been, 9, 12, 11, 8, 2, and then 7, just so consistent. I've got Trent and Jota at the moment. I'm happy with Trent. I don't feel Jota's enough. I think it's got to be a Salah or a Mane to go alongside or in place of. But I've got enough, not quite enough money to get from Maddison to Mane, and I'll be 1.5 million short of Salah, but I'll find a way of being able to do that for game week 37 again, because I'm just rolling a free hit this week. Yeah, for sure.
They have a major problem defensively at the moment, Southampton. Hasenhüttl spoke after the game saying at times they need to defend a bit deeper. Listen, in fairness, he's been very good for them, Hasenhüttl, but someone could have told you that 38 game weeks ago, mate, or 35 to be more precise. They've got a major issue at left back at the moment with Bertrand out. They're playing either Stevens or Salisu. They're out of position. I think Stevens played on Saturday, didn't he? It's not a good fix for them. Diallo, I don't think Hasenhüttl quite fancies because he seems to be taking him in and out of the team. He's played Armstrong in midfield on occasions. Danny Ings could return for Palace tomorrow night and they need him. In the unlikely event that Fulham win tonight and Southampton lose to Palace tomorrow night, which isn't that unlikely, Southampton play Fulham on Saturday and another Fulham win and there's 6 points. I think the gap would be only 4 points. I'm right, I'm saying, with 2 to play. And Southampton got Leeds, West Ham, and I wouldn't fancy them to get anything from that. If Fulham could then nick a point at Old Trafford, it's on. The only possible team I could see Fulham catching, even if they beat Burnley tonight, is Southampton. Because I just look at the final day and go, if Burnley need a result against Sheffield United, no problem. Yeah. So ironically, Fulham could drag Southampton into it. You just have to remember that their record is so bad. They've got like 11 points in 2021.
Yeah, it's not good at all.
It's about 4 worse than Sheffield United. They've been absolutely awful. You wouldn't be buying Fulham players this weekend to target them, but it adds to the Leeds free fixtures, doesn't it? In terms of the fact that Leeds go to St Mary's in match week 37. If Leeds play like they did against Tottenham, they'll run right against Southampton. Southampton are not there. They're not there at the moment. They've been, we talked about on the beach, met a case at Southampton, been on it for 3 months, mate.
Wolves 2, Brighton 1. Lewis Dunk, your hero and your villain all in one. All I thought about when I saw Lewis Dunkey was you. Sky Fantasy Football more than FPL.
I really try not to bring Sky Fantasy into this. He's not in my FPL team. But I just want to explain very briefly to people. So basically in Sky, you get points for certain amount of passes, certain amounts of shots on target, certain amount of tackles. So Dunk scores and he's probably at the point where he gets sent off. He's probably in line to win man of the match points you get as well. He's 9 passes off the passing tier. He's already hit 1 shot here. He's looking at possibly like a 22 pointer here or so, basically.
Which is huge.
And then obviously if you captain that, which admittedly I didn't, you're looking at 44 points, which is nearly my FPL team for this week, to give you some perspective. So it would have been absolutely monstrous. And I'm sure anybody who had him in that game was counting the points. Must have been, because I was watching the game thinking, I wonder how many he's actually going to get here. Like, is he going to get the man of the match as well? And then he has had an absolute ridiculous brain fart. And my fear is that the brain fart is so bad that Gareth Southgate's going to go, that's why I don't pick him for England. It's such a bad error of judgment from him not to let Silva go. There's every chance Silva would have scored. Every chance. It was a long way to go. It wasn't an open goal. His goalkeeper wasn't taking a throw-in at the side of the pitch. There was a lot for Silva still to do. And I just think it was such a bad call from Dunk to pull him. But you've got to let him go. It's too. If it had been with 5 minutes to go, you could, take the red card. Put a wall up for 5 minutes at the end. It was too long of a game to go. And it's cost his team. And it's a shame because he's won them so many points with some of his performances this year. He's been absolutely outstanding, Lewis Dunk. It's a 2-game ban, by the way, Suj, because it's his second red card of the season. Obviously got sent off at Crystal Palace earlier in the year. So it's a 2-game ban, which is good news for West Ham and Manchester City because they weren't great without him. Veltman was obviously missing as well. There was a chance that he'll be back for West Ham. And if that's the case, they'll probably play Wyatt, I imagine, essentially of a back three. Because I think they've been playing well enough with a back three that Potter probably won't want to change the system. And they were doing fine in the first half. I mean, to be fair, Wolves played well for the first 10 minutes and then played the rest of the first half like Wolves normally play first halves. And then they started the second half like they normally start second halves when they're at their best, Wolves, which is going for it. But we'll never know if they'd have actually got back in it if Dunk hadn't had his moment.
Of course,
I suspect it probably wouldn't have. Brighton have done enough probably to stay up. I think they're on one more point than Southampton, or a level with Southampton.
I'm having a look here. I think they are they're level with Southampton, having played a game more.
I think I wouldn't look at even though
10 clear of Fulham.
Even though Southampton have got 4 games left and Brighton have got a tougher fixture list, I'd fancy Brighton to get a result. If Brighton had to go to Arsenal and get a result on the final day, I'd fancy them to go and do it, for example. And I wouldn't be surprised still if they get a result against you at the weekend. Neil Maupay was sent off after the game.
He was.
Well, found abusive language. That's a couple missing for them. It's amazing what happens to teams when their managers get linked with moves away, isn't it? Hello, Brendan Rodgers. Hello, Graham Potter.
Wheels come off the bus.
Wolves, you wouldn't go near.
Nah.
I was pleased for Morgan Gibbs Wyatt to score because he missed the sitter just before, and there's been a lot of off-field talk about perhaps his head's not been in the right places, off-field indiscretions and stuff. He went at Swansea at loan. He had an injury. He's not really kind of enhanced on the player that I saw 2.5 years ago come on a pitch against Tottenham, and I was like, oh my God, who is this kid? Haven't really seen that since. Just kind of stagnated his career, that he's got an undoubted ability. And it's nice to see Nuno playing the likes of Vitinha and Gibbs White for this run-in. And they look a little bit more energised for it. Still don't ever really feel like they're going to score goals, though. But again, as said previously, better with Silva in the team. It was interesting that Max Kilman was picked over Sayis. I think Bradley said in the past that probably if it's going to be a back four, it's more suitable to have Kilman in there than some of the others. I know he thought Aït-Nouri played really well at left back as well, but I think the red card influenced this game as much as any game you've watched this year. I truthfully, I think Silva would have missed, and I think Brighton would have still won the game if he hadn't done that dunk. It was a big error.
Talking of red cards, there's still quite a bit of ownership around Ollie Watkins. Aston Villa 1, Manchester United 3. So everybody that had the armband on Bruno or a United asset who promptly shit themselves after 25 minutes and then calmed down by the end of the game and realised that football's 90 minutes and a triple game week is 3
to be honest,
90 minutes.
I had a look through Twitter with about 10 minutes of the first half left and I thought, I've got to tweet. I've got to tweet. We've got 270 minutes of a fucking game week for Man United. It was like 35 minutes gone. United have got this stunning record of coming from behind and winning away records, and everybody's losing their shit already. Hang on, I've already watched Martinez make about 5 saves. They're actually playing all right here, United. It does my head in. Anyway, Watkins, I actually saw a few people captain him actually, Suj.
Wow.
Yeah, that would be a heartbreaker, wouldn't it?
Wow.
The good news, obviously, if you are a Watkins owner, is he will still be available in game week 36 for Crystal Palace at the weekend. We'll obviously miss the Everton game because it's yellow cards. I can't see them getting that overturned on appeal. What I would say is I've real sympathy with. It's difficult to say I have sympathy with Watkins because he's definitely looking to initiate the contact, and there is a small amount of contact. But how many times have you and I sat here during the season and gone, why are referees not booking players for diving anymore?
Yeah.
Why is that not happening? And then suddenly we've decided in game week
it's either
35,
a foul or it's a dive sometimes.
But sometimes people slip. It happens.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, true. But
I think we know it's quite a lot of the time people are looking to dive. There's times we all watch replays. And we could probably all name someone from every club in the league and we go, he's dived there. I've seen Kane do it. We've seen Salah do it. We've seen Pedro Neto do it. We've seen Watkins. We've seen do it before. Everyone's got a diver in their team. But why have we decided? Why has a referee decided in game week 35 now specifically someone's going to get booked for diving? It's that inconsistency that drives people insane.
Frustrating.
Because there are so many other times this year where people have been on yellow cards and it didn't matter. If I was Watkins and I was thinking, if I go down here, it doesn't matter because no one else gets booked for doing this anymore. So if he feels that slight touch on his knee, he has every right to go down, in my opinion. We don't like it. And actually, I think this is how we'd want it to be refereed because it has to be punishment to try and stamp out diving in football. But there's so many other people got away from it this season. I think there's been like 4 or 5 players booked for simulation this season. Come on, man. I see 4 or 5 players do that every weekend.
Yeah.
So Watkins was just the unlucky one to be pulled up on it. His decision to go down easily wasn't as bad as Douglas Luiz's to foul Paul Pogba. What are you doing, mate? Pogba's just waiting for the change. Going, I'll just get my body in the way here. This guy can't help himself. It's amazing the amount of fouls that Pogba wins. I think like Eric Dyer doing similar to him in a game last year as well. I don't know if there's something about Pogba specifically that when he mugs someone off, people feel they need to get back at him. He had so many nibbles at him. And eventually Pogba went, he's going to kick me again, isn't he? I'm just going to put my foot in the way there. Definite penalty. No concern about it. And I think once United equalised, Villa's heads went a little bit. If you look at the foul again from Luiz, look at Barkley's reaction, look at Const's reaction. You can basically lip read them going, what are you doing, mate? Just cost us. And then Mings makes a really bad decision going too tight on Greenwood on the wrong side. Greenwood spins him. Martinez, I think, thinks he's going to bend it to the far corner, goes near post. Probably should save it as well. It was a catalogue of errors, a really bad goal to concede. The third goal was beautiful. Ederson Cavani's movement on that third goal. You know what he is? Clever Cavani. We don't talk enough about players who make runs and don't make runs, and when players should and shouldn't. Cavani realizes once the ball's going to Rashford on the right hand side that he can go because he knows the delivery is going to be good. How many times do you see players go, he's not running? It's because after time they never feel like they're going to receive
the ball.
Varney sees it goes to Rashford and knows he's got beautiful technique and goes, I'm off. It's absolutely superb. Third goal.
As soon as much as the first half timeline was on Twitter was people bemoaning United going 1-0 down, the full-time whistle was a number of people saying Cavani needs to stay at Manchester United because I think they realised he's a good player. And when they signed him, it was very much like, why are we getting this old guy to just come and be a squad player or fill it in and around? But he's proven that he's top draw. He's been better for United than Zlatan, for example, was in his short spell. No?
Zlatan would tell you took 2 trophies away from that. So,
well, the season's not done.
No, true. There could be one. Yeah, but Zlatan did, in fairness, have quite an influence on United. So? I think that's a little bit harsh. Cavani's one of my favourite forwards of the last 10 years. Absolutely brilliant forward. Movement is elite. He's probably the best in the business at movement in the penalty area.
2 more games to talk about, James. Starting with my own West Ham 0, Everton 1.
The floor is yours.
Does it have to be? I mean, I can
tell you why you lost if you want.
It was a massive disappointment. I thought, you know what, going into the game with the same team, and you did the same, right, with Delhi and what have you. You win a game, fine. Let's roll again with the same team. But the challenge that Everton put in front of us was just completely different to Burnley. And you'd think of Burnley as a strong physical side that get in your faces, but Burnley didn't do that to us, whereas Everton really did. and they wanted it more than we did. Ultimately, I would just sum it down to they went into that game then. If we need to win, fight, and battle for every single ball, when you've got Fornals, Benrahma, Lanzini, all these guys, Jesse on the pitch, give them time and space on the ball, they can really hurt you. Don't give them any time, any space on the ball. They're too lightweight. And Tom Davis, Allen, Richarlison, they just looked like someone had pissed them off in the morning, and they were out for not for a fight, but you know what I mean. They're in your faces, and Everton they physically just were better. And we just, as boys against men, we were definitely better football team. But obviously, it's easy to pass the ball around when you're not being progressive and getting into the final third. I mean, we completed twice as many passes as they did, but that doesn't really tell the story of the game because we played it in the middle third.
Yeah, well, the in the face, what's important about that, saying Everton in the face, is where Everton were in the face. Because Everton were only really in the face in their final third defensively, or if they felt there was a strong opportunity to win the ball high. And I thought Allen, it was certainly his best game since prior to his injury issues this season. That was more like his early season form, top draw performance, I thought, from Allen. What they did really well, and it's quite an unusual strategy. There was a number of things Everton did. One of them was they allowed the pitch to be very big, but only in certain phases. Because what they didn't want, and Allen and Davis were good at this, was, we'll let Lingard and Fornals and all these technical little good players have the ball, but we're not going to have them running at the back centre-backs. The other thing in terms of making the pitch quite big in the game was, I think it drew West Ham to play a shorter distance game than what they'd normally be comfortable with, because Everton were making that ball over the top for Antonio was not going to happen.
No.
And I think invariably, if you're a team, to call West Ham a direct team would be really, really unfair, because you played some beautiful football, like at Burnley on Monday night recently. But I think there are times where you utilise it, and it works really well. Particularly, think of even when Antonio was absent, the ball that I think it was Diop played against Leicester for Bowen, who then assisted Lingard. You're not frightened to go long. Leicester made sure that shit was not going to happen. Everton made sure that was not going to happen in this game on Sunday. And I think because there was a few times a few players wanted to look long into channels and stuff, and every time I looked up, I was like, it's quite a straightforward pass in front of me. So there was overplaying it. West Ham, I think, in the 3 of the 4 games have had the most possession this year. I've lost 3 of them. 2 of the other opponents being Newcastle was, I think both games against Newcastle might have been up there. Maybe not the 3-2, but the one earlier in the season. And there was another game you lost where you'd had a sort of over 60% possession. I think this was your 4th most of the season on Sunday.
I'll take your word for it.
Everton also, it was basically 4-4-2 from Everton. They do this a lot, Everton, where they'll have a wide player who sits in and makes it a back 5. So Coleman basically played right midfield. But again, when West Ham had domination of possession, he just kind of tucked into right fullback. Godfrey tucked in inside one more. Sigurdsson came off the flank to then make it a free, essentially. So they had a lot of players that were playing multiple positions within the game structure as well. And for all the play, to say that West Ham played badly would be wrong.
Yeah,
You didn't play
create
badly,
enough. Mate. I didn't think we were going to score though. That's the thing, right? We could have played all day, and we just wouldn't have scored. And that's credit to Everton defensively. They nullified all of the threats.
The only real Benrahma obviously should have scored with a header.
Oh yeah, you should have.
And Soufal, obviously the effort hit the post. But yeah, I was watching the game thinking I don't see Everton conceding here, which is amazing. When think back to what I was saying this time last week, and how well Villa played against them. There's something psychologically with Everton at the moment, home way. We obviously know that with the results. But I just wonder if actually in the home games it becomes psychological that unless they're playing one of the so-called bigger teams, they don't feel like they can play like that in a home game against a West Ham, for example, where they feel like, because they're at home, the onus is on them to dictate or something. Actually, away from home, this is really suiting them. And listen, this isn't the first team that's done that to that Everton have done it to this year, right? One at West Ham, one at Leicester, one at Arsenal, one at Tottenham, one at Liverpool. They get clean sheets and all of them as well. All 1-0 or 2-0, all of them wins. So it's no fluke that Everton did this sort of thing again. The only thing I wanted to make a comment on Everton's performance was something's not right with the Calvert-Lewin Richarlison partnership. Because actually, as well as you didn't really feel like West Ham were going to equalise, I didn't really feel like Everton were going to score again either.
No, the second half, they had nothing, hardly any chances.
The two of them, bar obviously the Josh King header at the end and stuff, the two of them, Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, missed more opportunities to put the other one through than I could begin to count. And then when you put a highlights package together, you won't even see that sort of shit. Both of them refused passes to put the other one through on goal several times in that game. And I don't know I don't know if that's a relationship understanding problem with the other one, or the pair of them just don't really have the vision to see the past ahead. There were countless times that Everton could have broke beyond. The goal was brilliant because Calvert-Lewin sucks Craig Dawson into the run that he doesn't want to have to make, where he's turning onto his left side and running back at goal. Yeah, it was a brilliant goal that he scored. It did finish it really well. I think Everton's defensive performance was so good that they deserved victory, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I was, that's where it was the disappointment, because I can't be mad with us for going out and playing particularly shit, but we just didn't set up right for this game. And look, Ancelotti's a class manager, and he got it right on the day.
I wouldn't even say, sometimes you can watch games like that where teams have a lot of possession and it feels quite laboured and slow. I didn't feel like that watching.
No, me neither.
It was just when you got in and around the box, Everton went enough, shut it off. As I said, Alan particularly was very, very good. Do you think Lingard's playing a bit deeper?
He was the one tracking back to stop.
He made a brilliant tackle on Coleman, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's evidence enough of itself.
Which ironically was from a Calvert-Lewin through ball to Coleman, which he should have previously put Richarlison through for. Just saying, by the way.
I'm not selling Jesse Lingard. I'm still going to buy Antonio this week on my free hit, and I may even buy him, depending on what happens this week, for the weeks after. And from an Everton point of view, I actually prefer, so obviously with the free hit and Sheffield United, you've got to go all in. I think Dean and Richarlison over Calvert-Lewin. I might go Richarlison over Calvert-Lewin.
Really? I wouldn't. To be honest, I have no consideration of buying Richarlison this week.
Yeah, just something about his attitude that made me think, you know what, he's quite hungry for it at the moment.
It's something about his attitude tells me that sometimes he'd rather be somewhere else. It just looks moody all the time, personally.
Yeah, isn't that a moody desire to win?
Smile a bit sometimes. He needs get in with Martial. They need a night out together. Them two. He does. He just looks unhappy all the time. Richarlison. It might be how he is. I think he was like that at Watford as well. I don't think it's any indication that he wants to leave or so. I just feel like he's capable of absolutely terrorising people. I don't think personally that him through the middle works. I don't think it works unless they've got James behind, who can play exactly what I'm talking about. The pass for the other one who's making those scenarios yesterday. If James Rodriguez had played in that game yesterday, I'm not saying Everton would have won, but if they'd had the same attacking scenarios, I'm telling you, Rodriguez would have got at least 2 assists out of that game. They would have found the boys and they would have finished. The other two couldn't find each other. I'd like to see Richarlison back out wide. Personally, I think it's way more suitable. But I understand the tactical setup in this sort of game. What I'm saying is, I think playing Sheffield United at the weekend, I'd prefer to see Richarlison out wide. Even pick Iwobi. Just pick some pace out wide, so it'd be enough. Even Iwobi will cause trouble against Sheffield United. Richarlison would be no consideration for me. Definitely be Calvert-Lewin. Watch Richarlison go off now. It's an absolute certainty, isn't it? Lingard, I think, is playing deeper as the product of you're having a little bit more of the ball. I think we saw that in the Burnley game as well. I think there's a little bit of concern of protection because obviously Noble's a very experienced player, although now limited. Lanzini's a better technician, played well on Monday, but I think there is a little bit of thing, I need to screen and protect him. He's now got injured and obviously Fornals then went and played there. So I think there was a consciousness of, do you know what, Everton have got some physical players in there. Sigurdsson's a very good player in terms of his movement off the ball and picking up spaces. There probably is a little bit of a consciousness of I need to be aware of that. I also think he's a player who likes to field a game. So when West Ham have been counter-attacking really well and you see Lingard running at people, I think if he feels them spaces are not available in a game to him, he is drawn to go and get the ball.
Yep.
And I think that's having an impact. Plus, the system now has obviously changed from the 3 to the 4, which means you've got a starting position of more attacking players anyway. So be it, say, the way you finished yesterday.
Although that
Ben
will probably
Rama
change with Rice coming
closer to Antonio.
Rice is fit for next week, so I think that will probably change. I mean, if you're thinking about selling Jesse Lingard, you're in a really luxurious position if you're a FPL team right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Last game, I didn't watch it. Don't really care about it. My commiserations though to West Brom, who are now officially relegated. But you did call it and said, look, when the pressure's off, Arsenal do sometimes go and slap teams quite comfortably. And
they didn't slap no one last night. They were lucky, mate.
What 3-1's a fairly comfortable win.
They were lucky, mate.
Were they? Okay, you tell me more. Honestly. Like I said, I didn't watch it. So
Arsenal easily could have lost last night. I mean, once they went ahead, I don't think it was any real thinking that they wouldn't win the game from that point. I mean, Pepe scored a brilliant goal. They gave West Brom major issues down their right-hand side. Saka played left back and he was getting in time and time again in the first half. I'm not sure why West Brom kept allowing it to happen. But yeah, West Brom had plenty of chances and Pereira looked again like a very special player last night. Definitely could have got more than the one he got. The driving run for the goal, we haven't seen enough of that from him. Actually, just drive. Last night, it felt like he had a shot early from about 30 yards that went just wide. It felt like a real attitude last night. I've got to drag this team, like the penny had finally dropped for him. And it's frustrating that I think he's had a lot of games this season where actually he hasn't been involved. Because when he is involved, he really does stand out as by far the best player.
You started with him in Gameweek 1, didn't you?
Yeah. He's not him, Chris Wood, St. Maximin. There were some players who you'd be interested in at the start. You wouldn't have mind having now and stuff. I think he'll go. I don't think he'll stay. Gemma and Harrison are coming on COTC on Thursday, and we'll talk about it. But I think they would accept that Pereira will go. I think that the Villa's the one I've mentioned. If Grealish goes, I can see Villa being interested. If Tottenham had a mass clear out, they'd be interested. I think Arsenal, if they didn't sign Odegaard permanently, would maybe be interested in Pereira, for example. He's a good player. I don't think he's a great player. I think he's a very, very good player, and I think he'd look better with better players around him. Yeah, West Brom had chances. I mean, Furlong missed a brilliant header. I think that was at 2-1 as well. And bar Saka, Arsenal weren't great. Pepe got a great goal. Williams' free kick's a brilliant free kick, in fairness, but I don't think Arsenal fans think much of him. To be honest, it wasn't about last night for Arsenal. It was about last Thursday, wasn't it? And the fucking meltdown following the failure to beat Villarreal. One shot on target, European semi-final, second leg at home, needing one goal to go through. It's pretty pitiful, isn't it? I only watched the last 15 minutes of that game, and I can tell you that Villarreal's goalkeeper is shocking. And they never tested him.
I don't think Arteta's going to be their manager at the start of next season. I don't see any point in sacking him now. I don't think there's any point sacking him now. 3 games to go. Just don't create a circus for the sake of it. But at the end of the season, sit down and review it properly and have a think. And I don't think Arteta's going to be their manager next season. There's every chance that he couldn't be.
There are a lot of players at Arsenal who are looking to leave. And there's a lot of players at Arsenal that they should be happy to let leave.
Correct.
Because bar some of the youngsters in that squad, like Saka, Smith Rowe, they could all go. Kieran Tierney is the one really that you'd go, yeah, he's been a new sign. It's really worked out. Definitely keep on. Other than sort of Tierney, Saka, you wouldn't be bothered about anybody else. And it's similar with Tottenham with sort of Kane and Son. It's different. That's the difference between Tottenham and Arsenal. Between the two of them, they've got 40 bad players across the two teams. Arsenal have got a couple of really good youngsters, and Tierney's a good player, and Tottenham obviously have Kane and Son. Other than that, the rest of it between both clubs is wank. And the irony is, obviously, if Arteta is to go, Tottenham and Arsenal will probably be looking for very similar managers. And I wonder if the rumours of Arteta might push Tottenham to act a little bit quicker. Because Tottenham and Arsenal have been in this situation before, looking for a manager at the same time and stuff. And invariably, they will want similar things. Arsenal will be looking at the same managers, like Rodgers, like Potter, that Tottenham are looking at now. That might mean that Arsenal are already looking if they're thinking of sacking Arteta. But I imagine most Arsenal fans would tell me that they've got no foresight and no forward planning, so they're probably not. I think he could get sacked. I think it's probably at the point, a little bit like it was with Tottenham and Mourinho, where I wouldn't say no matter what he did could have turned people, because in Mourinho's case, you could say, well, if he won the trophy, we knew that's what he was brought in to do. I think for Arsenal fans, there's a lot of them who probably doesn't really matter what Arteta does in the next 6 months or so. They're kind of set now that he's not the solution. I still say there's something in him, I think tactically, that's interesting, particularly in some of the bigger games. But I also feel there's a lot of Arsenal fans who don't feel the identity with their football club at the moment. And I'm not sure that Arteta can bring it back unless he needs years to be able to rebuild that squad, because the big name players there, the Aubameyangs, the Lacazettes, the Bellerins, all these ones, Xhakas, all these ones that have been there for a while and stuff, get them out. Honestly, Arsenal be better off selling Aubameyang and that. I'm just starting again, I promise you.
Ladies and gents, make your way to North London at the end of the season, because both clubs are having the biggest car boot sale you can imagine. There is a fantastic concourse outside your stadium and theirs, to be honest with you. So let me
tell you honestly, truthfully, if Arsenal and Tottenham if you picked to combine from the two teams, best 11, it wouldn't finish top 4.
That's a very, very interesting way to end the run-up of the games. And I think you're probably right there, James. Wolf, we've got some questions coming on Twitter. Not a huge amount, but actually enough that I think we could probably get them all answered in the next 10 minutes. But before we do you want to give everyone a rundown of what they've got to look forward to in the rest of this elongated triple game week? Still another 4 days of football before no break, and then the next game week starts.
Yeah, later today I'll be catching up with Stephen Toomey at Sixth Goal, our Watford correspondent. We was meant to do this a little while ago, but the whole Super League stuff really blew this up. Watford obviously been promoted back to the Premier League, so we find out with Stephen what's changed with the Hornets since last season. Interestingly, I put some polls on Twitter yesterday, and the majority of people cannot tell you who the Watford manager is. Can you, Suj?
No.
Brilliant, isn't it? We're going to be talking about this and why that is. Wednesday, Sky Fantasy Football. Thursday's Clash of Correspondence is West Brom v Liverpool. Gemma and Harrisonino and Dan Lord. Friday, we'll be reviewing again early as possible the games played from tonight, starting with Fulham Burnley up to the Manchester United Liverpool game from Thursday night and our plans for game week 36. But bar injuries, I think I already know what they are. I've basically got to press 4 buttons left for the remainder of this season and I'm done, I think.
That is for your FPL team, but from a podcasting point of view, there's plenty more buttons still left to press. Right, we're going to get into a bit of Q&A before I plug a bit of Patreon, and then we can wrap up this show, and everyone can get back to their rest of their triple game week in peace. I'm going to start at the bottom, James. Some of these are quick fire. Starting with James Nelson, would you go Wilson or Antonio for the remaining games to replace Nacho?
Antonio. If I was buying this week, which is interesting because Antonio's toughest game is this week, be it Brighton. Wilson's toughest game is Man City. I could yet go Antonio over Wilson in 37. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go Calvert-Lewin this week because just not overthinking. Just go, fuck it, Sheffield United first, and they're done. They're finished. I think if I had to buy one now, I'd still go Antonio, I think.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. West Ham have got more to play for. So Antonio's still going to be lively, but he's come off the back of a long layoff and he's played 2 games back-to-back 90 minutes, which is surprising. I still have fear in my heart that he won't get all the games out, so I would almost go to Wilson, but then I get drawn away by thinking, well, Wilson's got nothing to play for, so he could easily just see out the season. It's a real toss-up. But go Antonio, because James seems much more...
I don't believe so. If you were buying a forward this week, I do not believe you would buy Wilson over Antonio. I don't believe.
No. I'm in a different situation with free hit this week, so I would get Antonio. But if it was for the rest of the season, I think Wilson. But
I think it'd be close over the 3 games. I think it'd be close. But I think timing wise, if it's this week, you would probably buy Antonio.
Aguero, this is from FPL Drogba. Aguero, terrible penalty or great save? Terrible penalty.
Both, because Mendy does well the fact that he does go to his right-hand side
and come back.
But he doesn't fully commit. The amount of times we see that.
When he was jumping around on the line, you think like he's jumping around, he's going to commit and go one way, pick a side, and if he gets the wrong side, he gets the wrong side.
You know what's really interesting is actually the way goalkeepers have kind of changed their stance on the line might have had an influence on this, because Mendy keeps his left leg as he dives to his right really straight as he's beginning to kind of make the impact to make dive. That's to make sure obviously his foot stays on the line, right? So he's not coming off it. Take Martinez yesterday against Fernandes. Even if he'd saved it, it would have got retaken because Martinez was off his line at the point of contact. So Mendy obviously keeps his leg there. And I think because of that, perhaps because he's not pushing forwards to come through his knee at the point of contact, he hasn't committed his full body weight. So therefore, to get back, he finds it really easy. It's not the first time it's happened, even this season. Aguero's attempt was better than Lookman's. I can promise you that. I don't think he needed to come out and say, sorry, look, thing is, you score that penalty, you go, great. Whenever you do that, the Panenka, you know if it goes wrong, you're going to look a fucking idiot. That's why I would never do that. I would never dream of doing that because you know you can get mugged off. And so many more players take penalties now and just go through the middle anyway. Kane does it a lot, for example. Vardy as well, just smash it down the middle. So you've got more chance these days of a goalkeeper just actually standing his ground. Aguero didn't get enough on it, but I think actually Mendy deserves a little bit of credit for. He could have gone down and gone, oh, I can't get that. But he got up really quickly.
Mark Freer, if moving off Vardy this week, would you go Aguero, Antonio, or DCL?
Well, likely to be DCL for me. Aguero, it's not for me. And I realise for some of the chasers, it's a brilliant punt potentially if it works. It's not for me. I need someone who's going to play 3 games. I'd be staggered if he plays 3 games. And I wouldn't have the cojones to stick the captaincy on him unless Guardiola said he's starting. So it wouldn't be for me. I'll almost definitely be going Calvert-Lewin. I wouldn't rule out the possibility of going Calvert-Lewin to Aguero on final day.
FPL Trailblazer, how many hours a week do you put into Planet FPL? James is full-time, Suj as other businesses run right. It's just a good opportunity to plug Patreon. Thank you for that segue to let us just ask people for money. But yeah, James is full-time. I probably do. I know we record 5 hours a week, 4 or 5 hours a week, something like that, plus maybe another hour, bits and bobs. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to jump on our Patreon, you can. There's no obligation. We still put our pods out for free each and every day. Mark Freer.
I'm pretty sure that my recording's getting towards 8-9 hours a week now.
Yeah, so we just don't talk so much.
And
simple solution.
And the live streams as well. I'm comfortably pushing 10 hours of recording a week, I'd say.
Yeah, stop talking too much.
I do talk too much. If you lived with my wife, you would and all.
It's a chance to escape and get a word in edgeways. Mark Freer, is it worth you taking a -4 to get a definite starting keeper, Loris or Edison, or just punt on Forster staying in? I mean, is that for this week only, I guess, really?
That's why I think I ended up getting Gator last week, because I was like, I can do it now for free. I don't want to. I'd loathe to be making a goalkeeper transfer from -4. And as it turns out, I will probably bust Forster in goal because it's Fulham this week rather than Gator. And if he doesn't play, I've got the cover. Personally, I would deal with it. I'd deal with the problem. Got to look at it and go, Meslier is probably, as a good example, who's going to be cheap enough for you, is going to outscore over the 3 game weeks or so and get you the 4 back.
I am just looking at the Game Week 38 fixture for it's an away game for you, because the next question from Gavin is, how do you see the top 4 race pan out? Do you reckon Spurs to decide everything on the last day versus Leicester? No, but could you imagine that? That would be pretty tasty. It'd give you that kind of competitive football, something riding on it right back.
If Liverpool win at United on Thursday, it's then in their hands, because their goal difference would basically be roughly level with Leicester. And if Liverpool win their 3 games, Chelsea would have to win the 2, and Liverpool will probably get a better goal difference than Leicester over that. So I think if Liverpool win on Thursday, you would expect Liverpool to win them last 3 games, wouldn't you? West Brom away, Burnley away with nothing to play for.
Oh, yeah, especially if they can still get back in the Champions League. It will recover a bad season into an all right one.
Don't get me wrong, when you want to win 3 games in a run-in, I don't think you want Burnley away to be one of them, but you would fancy them to go there and get the job done, wouldn't you? So I think if Liverpool win on Thursday, I think they'll finish 4th.
Torfik El Sharif says, straightforward question, James. Who to captain, Salah or Kane?
This week,
I'm assuming so.
I'm going to go with Kane, but if for some reason Salah didn't start at Old Trafford, I would probably go with Salah at West Brom. I don't think Salah's going to play the West Brom and Burnley games, personally. I think they're close enough. You've got Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday. When you've got people like Jota, Mane, Firmino in reserve, you can use Salah for the last half hour. I don't think it's necessary. And I think the West Brom game is probably the more likely one that he would maybe miss out. So for me, Kane.
We've got Luke asking a question. What move would you make first for the rest of the season? Vardy or Iheanacho to Bamford or Antonio, or both this week and just take a -4 if funds are not an issue?
Sorry, Vardy to Iheanacho.
Vardy or Iheanacho to Bamford or Antonio. So you can do.
Oh, right.
Is it one at a time, or just take a -4 and get them both done?
If you're selling, you've got to ask yourself, if in a worst case scenario you end up having to keep one in game week 37, which one would you rather keep? You sell the other one. In my case, I'd rather keep Iheanacho. He's the cheaper player. I get all that money from Vardy that then allows me to go from a shit defender up to Trent or something. So you definitely sell in that case. It's Vardy, isn't it? If you've got no preference, you sell the one that's got the biggest value to spread your funds.
And Luke also mentions that maybe going DCL for Vardy instead because he's not a fan of Leicester's fixtures. Well, we've talked about that move plenty. So, that's a good shout.
Just to go back to captaincy, kind of Salah versus Kane, I may well go Calvert-Lewin this weekend.
Miko says, when do you think the game will restart for the 21-22 campaign? As late as possible. I think it would be fucking great if they opened the game 2 days before the season started, because we just wouldn't have weeks of crazy plotting, planning, drafts or whatever. You literally have got 2 days to pick a team and don't overthink it, which is what we quite often do at the start of the season.
Just an hour.
Yeah. Game opens at 9 a.m. Teams in by 6. Just like a school exam. Wicked.
Now, 4:30 p.m. on the Friday. Bosh, you got till 5:30. Off you go.
Yeah. But I think it'll probably just after the Euros, isn't it?
Well, it was, to be honest, it's been getting earlier and earlier, isn't it? So whether they push it back a little bit later because of Euros this time, I'm pretty sure during the World Cup it was still sort of late July, early June, probably end of June, I should imagine. I think last year it ended up, there was some leaks, wasn't there? I said, and they had to open the game up a little bit earlier than what they'd intended. But I think end of June now, after the group stage of the Euros or something, could see it.
Yep. Kelvin, just a message for you, James. When you refer to Vicente Gaeta, please can you refer to him as the magnificent Vicente Gaeta?
Who said that?
Forward, as you have in the past. Kelvin.
All right, hello, Kelvin. The magnificent Vicente Gaeta he is fucking not, I can assure you. I've owned that plonker in Sky Fantasy before, and it's not good for the health. Although having your goalkeeper against Sheffield United is not the worst thing.
No.
Any problem is your goalie's never getting more than 6. He ain't doing fuck all.
FPL Kaka says West Ham have 3 great fixtures. Is jumping on the likes of Soufal for the final run still a good shout? All I would say to that, yes, I mean, he did get forward a fair amount yesterday, but he hasn't in most of the games we played. He's been decent. Just have a look at the last time West Ham kept a clean sheet, which was it feels like we haven't been keeping clean sheets at all. But then Bossman, Rice is back. So, I mean, that makes a massive difference to the team. Yeah. Do it. It's 3 games to go. Have some fun. If you want Soufal, buy Soufal. I don't got anything else to add.
Was it Fornells or Soufal's cross for Ben Rama yesterday?
Don't know. Don't remember.
That's well.
I don't want to give false information.
All right. Well,
I think it was Fornells, if I'm honest with you.
If we say it was Soufal, it sounds better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's hit the post as well. Yeah, Soufal's reasonable for the end. I just think, for many people, I guess if you were looking to move, say, a Rudiger on or something, and you haven't got the money in the bank, I guess a move to Soufal is reasonable. But to be honest, I'd consider maybe even like Alioski or Llorente at Leeds, maybe. Because as you rightly say, Suj, there ain't many clean sheets knocking about for you.
No.
And actually, the 3 teams you're playing are capable of scoring goals in games, so wouldn't be top of my priority list.
FPL Kim Jong-de. Is Stones underappreciated and Diaz overrated? Diaz has been great, but the results with him at the back were awful until Stones returned to the starting lineup. I mean, give the guy a bit of chance to settle into the Premier League and what have you. And he's looked vulnerable over the last few weeks without him, but the whole team has changed for City as well. Stones has been massively improved.
Of course he has.
But Diaz is not overrated because he's class.
No, Ruben Diaz has probably had the biggest impact in the Premier League this season as an individual.
Agreed.
And you can make a strong case for him to be player of the year. You wouldn't make that case for John Stones. Possibly more.
You'd make John Stones should be starting for England at the Euros. Though.
Oh, yeah, 100%. He's England's best centre-back, no doubt about it. I wouldn't read anything into the recent results. Leeds at home, Chelsea at home. Manchester United at home, you could read something in a few weeks ago, but the recent ones wouldn't be bothered. Even if you go back and look at the team City played against Leeds, heavily rotated and stuff. So I wouldn't read too much into that. Probably more a point is that Laporte is not at the level that he was at a couple of years ago. I think it's probably more at a point, and Stones is a better partner company for Diaz. It's not to downplay Stones, but Diaz, yeah, 100%. If you were picking the team of the season right now, isn't any of us wouldn't put Diaz in it, and I don't think we'd put Stones in it.
Couple more questions, James, to wrap up. Alex Waterbaby says, with 5 blankers plus Davis, I'm thinking it's Keane and Davis at Villa, right? And possibly injured Veltman, how many hits would you consider taking? So that's 7. Now, you always get the one person that you think is going to play that doesn't play.
Veltman, I imagine, probably will be back. But even so, are you expecting a big return versus West Ham at home? If I look at it like that, you're not that bothered anyway, are you? If he plays, let's be honest, he's probably a 2-pointer and you move on. Keane and Davis is probably a 1-pointer. You move on. Depends what you've got. We had this discussion a couple of weeks ago. If you're really happy with the 8, 9 or so you've got, and the players that you've got on your bench, you intend to, or unavailable for you, you intend to be using again in game week 37. I wouldn't go smashing them out all over the place. A -4 or so. I mean, to be honest, if I said to someone, look, I'm looking to go -4 this week, sell Maguire no game and Vardy no game for Iheanacho and Calvert-Lewin, and it might be Calvert-Lewin captain, someone's going to tell me that that's a bad -4. I'm going to be 2 points up, presumably, just through the appearance points on that. So it's got to be done. So I think, yeah, -4. Once you start going into -8s, you really need to do the kind of numbers on if it's worth it or not. -4, yeah, definitely.
Last question, James. Well, it's a 2-part question. Amber Redmond and also FPL Tractor jumping in. Last question of the pod before we wrap up.
Is this about Ipswich Town? Is it about Ed Sheeran sponsoring Ipswich?
It's not. Amber said, do you often remember your dreams? And how often does football feature? FPL Tractor says, do you often remember your nightmares? And how often does football feature? I remember probably 20 to 30% of my dreams. Not most, but football doesn't often feature, to be honest with you.
I think a dream about football, most dreams are normally good, actually.
Oh, really? You win stuff?
I would say so, yeah. No, just one game on a Monday night. It's normally more positive dreams about football, actually. Now I just wake up by the sound of like a baby coughing or crying or something. So it's all very different. Yeah, I'd say more positive than negative. I've never woke up in a sweat and be like, did Amsterdam really happen? No, it really happened. So yeah, normally more positive than bad, actually, I'd say.
Good. There we go, James. That was all of the questions we had. We didn't have a mass volume in today. Obviously, end of the season now. Everyone's kind of winding down. Few transfers left to make, but thank you for the questions that we did get in. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, if it's iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, whatever it may be. Tomorrow, again, a rundown on Watford and their promotion winning season with Stephen Toomey, Sky on Wednesday, and a whole bunch more of content coming at you. Any last thoughts, James?
Do you want to sell Patreon?
Patreon.com/Planet FPL. Definitely get yourself signed up. You get an additional podcast every single day, depending on what tier. Sometimes you get articles and videos that James does, and you get to join our awesome community of slackers. Slackers is what we call a Slack community. 400 odd people in there, all chatting about football, giving each other advice. Fans of different teams. Some teams you might not follow regularly. You want to ask for advice and stuff. Well worth it. And from only £3 a month, definitely worth a shout. Patreon.com/Planet FPL. Pow.
That's it.
Anything else to add?
No.
Well, then,
see you on Friday.
Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man, child.